A number a is the square root of b if a squared is equal to b. So if we have 6 is the square root of 36 because 6 times 6 is 36. That's kind of what the rule is reading. And then so for example, 4 squared is 16 and negative 4 squared is 16, so 4 and negative 4 are square roots of 16. The principal square root is the positive number, and the negative square root is the negative number. But we're gonna work with we're just gonna talk about the positive square roots here. The radical is this symbol. So if you see that symbol, that means radical. In Algebra 1, we do square roots. So square roots are second roots. We don't usually write this 2 right here, but we also talk about third roots and fourth roots later on. A radicand is what's underneath a square root. So it's underneath the radical. So in these cases up here, 16 is the radicand for each of these. It's what's underneath the square root. Perfect squares are 1, see if you can find the pattern, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36. So what I'm doing is perfect squares are numbers that when I take the square root of them, they are whole numbers. So 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, 3 squared is 9, 4 squared is 16, etc. So if I kept the pattern going, it would go 49, 64, 81, and 100. So in order to simplify square roots, you want to do what you can without a calculator. So the square root of 64 is what number that when I square it I get positive 64. I'm just going to use the principal square root, so that's going to be 8. I'm not going to write positive and negative weight. Now remember before that this symbol means positive and negative. It's a shorthand term. So if you see a square root with a fraction, what you can do is I would first try to reduce 9 over 25, and so you can't reduce it. So this is the same thing as actually the square root of 9 over the square root of 25. So the square root of 9 is 3, and the square root of 25 is 5, so this is plus or minus 3/5 is the answer. C is negative square root 49, so that's negative 7. D, now notice that D has the negative on the inside. So is there a number that when you square it, you get negative 100? No. So this is no solution. Or you can also write undefined. And then the square root of negative 100, this means take the square root of 100 and then make it opposite. So this is negative 10. So now we're going to try to evaluate with square roots. So when you have a square root, you treat it almost like a grouping symbol. So I'm going to do everything underneath the grouping symbol first. So this is going to be 16 plus 11 plus 9. Now I'm going to group 11 and 9 together to be 20. So this is actually the square root of 36, which is 6. Okay, letter B. What I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce this first. Can I divide 726 by 6? Yep. That's a 121. So the square root of 121 is 11. And then C, I'm going to do, remember square roots act like grouping symbols, so I'm going to do this part first. So it's going to be 6 plus the square root of negative 8 squared is positive 64 minus 7 times 4 is 28 over 3. So I have to do order of operations, so I have to do 64 minus 38. So it's 6 plus the square root of 36 divided by 3. So that's 6 plus 6 divided by 3. So 6 plus 6 is 12, divided by 3 is 4. So the answer is 4. And then letter D, so you got a square root with a fraction. So I'm going to do the square root of 1 over the square root of 9 times 20 plus 4, which is 24. So the square root of 1 is 1, the square root of 9 is 3, 1/3 times 24 is the same thing as 24 divided by 3. So that's 8. Okay, the second part is absolute value. So the absolute value of a number is the distance a number is from 0 on the number line. So, and it uses these bars, these vertical bars. So this means what's the distance negative for it from 0 on the number line? So if you put negative 4 on the number line, how far is it from 0? Well, it's 4 units. Absolute value is never negative. It's always going to be a positive number. So this one's asking what's the absolute value of 2.3? How far away is 2.3 from 0 on the number line? Well, it's 2.3. This one's going to be 7/9. And then 0. So just because there's absolute value doesn't mean that you should just make everything positive. So just like we did, this is 4 already, but this problem is reading, okay, we have the absolute value of 9. Let's do that first. Treat it like parentheses. So the absolute value of -9 is 9. That's this blue part, but then we got an opposite symbol on the outside. So the answer is -9. So you can't just do 2 negatives make a positive when there's absolute value. And then letter C is just going to be 34. D is going to be what's the absolute value of -2, which is 2, and then square it. So that's 4. E is what's 3 take away the absolute value of -2. Well, the absolute value of -2 is 2. So 3 take away 2 is 1. F is the absolute value of -4, which is 4, minus the absolute value of -6 is 6. So 4 minus 6 is -2. G is what's the absolute value of 2? 2 plus what's the absolute value of -4? 4. 2 plus 4 is 6. H, absolute value of -1 is 1, minus 6 is -5. And then I is the absolute value of 6 is 6, but you got an opposite sound up front. So it's -6 minus 4, which is -10.